that has been a theme of like time and time again, women telling me their stories of, they brought this creature into their lives, they brought this dog into their life, and they expected it to be this one thing, but then, life happened. On the flip side of that, there's been themes of my dog has inspired me to change my career or start a career from scratch. My dog has inspired me to buy the house that I have. Like those are things like I want to like normalize, right?
Hello everyone, welcome to MythBarkers, where we make dog parenting easier by sniffing out the facts and debunking dog tales.
This season, in addition to diving into key topics across dog health and wellness, training and behaviors, adoption and rescue, we've spoken to a few incredible entrepreneurs who have built successful businesses in the dog space. In so many ways, dogs embolden us to build new family dynamics and structures, communities, businesses based on and inspired by our dogs, and today's guest is no different.
Our guest today is a professional photographer who has a rich background in social work. In 2017, she decided to leave her job to focus on photography and build a studio outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where she and her husband/partner, David, create beautiful art that celebrates individuals, families, and what matters most to them. She has published several coffee table books, and now she gets to celebrate the deep connections that women have with their beloved dogs through her newest creation, Dog Mom Magazine, which we're going to talk all about today. Please join us in welcoming Kristin Kidd to MythBarkers. Hi, Kristen!
Hey,
Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have you.
it's really good to be here.
It's been a long time coming since we met, so we want to dive in because there's a lot of misperceptions about women who have dogs, right? They're crazy dog moms. They're like too obsessed with their dogs. Or maybe the idea that being a dog mom isn't being a real mom. Or maybe women who have dogs and not children have less fulfilling lives. There's so many things, so many stigma around this idea of women who have dogs. Have you ever experienced this yourself, and what do you think about it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've experienced it personally, and I've experienced it all throughout my career as a photographer. My primary clients are dog moms, and I don't pick up my camera until I understand the relationship, the bond, the importance, like what's being celebrated from every photo session, no matter what I'm photographing. And so that has led me to hear story after story from dog moms who are sharing with me how their canine companions have been there with them through their seminal moments in their lives. And many of my projects stemmed from, at the end of that conversation, almost every dog mom would say, I know that makes me crazy for how much I love my dog. And
Yes.
I wanted to create testimonies, tomes, pieces of art and creations that came together and celebrated the community and really helped them to see that we're not crazy for how much we love anything in our lives, especially these creatures that mean so much to us.
I love that because I'm guilty. I do it myself. When I introduce myself to new people who don't know me, I tell them what I do in the rescue space, and I'm like, oh, I have 3 dogs and I have fosters, and I know I'm a crazy dog mom, and it's so like self-deprecating and like makes myself smaller. And I don't know what it is with society and the stigma, but it's like, all right, you know what, MythBarkers, we got to bust this myth because dog moms are not a niche. They're actually a
No.
giant population. Yena and I were doing some research before this, and it's like, if you look at the census data, there's been this undeniable rise of childless dog moms or people there's a decline in birth rates, an increase in people who are choosing to have dogs. It's just really clear that people are choosing to prioritize their dogs as their source of companionship and love, and it fulfills that nurturing element among so many other things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think like one of the things that I express to every family or individual that I work with that has a dog in their home is that we are closer to the creatures in our lives than we are to many other humans. And that is very profound. But I do see, your original question was like, do I see the stigma and how do I see it? And I've seen it over and over again of, a diminishing of validation, affirmation, that of those life choices when it's abundantly clear that our fulfillment can be found in so many different ways, including welcoming dogs into our lives and having them as family, and choosing to not have other things in our lives that society finds much more conventionally acceptable.
Mm. And the celebration of that also is something that is relatively new and something I think should be valued as much as we value the choices that everybody has to make for their lives. According to a study conducted by Psychology Today in 2020, 51% of women have dogs versus 41% of men. So while it may be perceived and stigmatized a certain way, dog moms are really no longer a niche minority. They're actually the majority. It's actually a huge community, and this is why we wanted to talk to you today, because I feel like maybe even 5 or 10 years ago, if we said Dog Mom Magazine, people might be confused by that. Huh, what do you mean, Dog Mom Magazine? Like, who would buy that? But then you think about it right now and you look at the numbers, and we're talking about a majority of women. And
Yeah.
so that has been an incredible shift in the recent past. Can you talk to us about your transition from studio photography, traditional photography, to this space, and what prompted that?
Yeah, yeah. So Dog Mom Magazine had a really fun beginning to it. For the better part of a decade, I have photographed humans and their canine companions, all of their creatures in their lives, but primarily our connection with the dogs in our lives. And like I said, most of them are dog moms that come to me. And so after doing that for the better part of a decade, I have another project that I've been running for 7 years. And it's a coffee table book that tells the stories of our bonds with the dogs in our lives, and the profits from the sales go to rescue. And it's been one of my greatest sources of pride and joy, and it normalizes the human experience and normalizes the bond that we share with the dogs in our lives. And on one of my previous books recently that I was creating, I had a photo session with a dog mom that was being featured. And we were having a great time, like we always do in every session. And we were joking together that as we were looking at the photos, we're like, oh, these need to be in a magazine. Yeah, they should be in Dog Mom magazine. And then we kind of like laughed it off. We're like, well, obviously that already exists. I mean, and we're like, yeah, we need that in our lives. So we were going to go subscribe to Dog Mom magazine, only to find that it did not exist. So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And I love a good project. I love
Same.
writing. Oh, yeah, I've been writing for years. I've been photographing for years, and I was like, sure, let's start a magazine. A little bit audacious. And then I researched it, found that it did not exist, and decided to go down the path of creating this. And I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so I modeled it a lot after my coffee table books, in the sense that the profits from the subscriptions go to a rescue, and that the magazine is filled with dog moms and their dogs that are featured, and they share their stories, and we build community. And every feature has a photo session with me. And so they get the joy of having this photo session that they probably already wanted for a long time. And also knowing that
Mhm.
they're making their dog a celebrity, which feels great, and supporting rescue.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna do a quick insert of the Dog Mom magazine here.
Yeah.
We are so lucky to be featured in the new edition of Dog Magazine, which I want to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it's the inspiration issue. So, right, it's coming out now. What an
Hi.
experience that both Yena and I got to kind of tell our individual stories and highlight our individual dogs in such stunning, stunning photography. When I got this in the mail yesterday, I was like, my breath was, I was blown away. I'm so excited. And it's like,
Christmas came
honestly,
early, y'all.
and honestly, like I couldn't think of just like a better alignment. MythBarkers is here to help make pet parenting easier. And who are those pet parents? The dog moms who care the most about their dogs. Kristen, why did you feel like this really was an opportunity? And like, What are you hoping to build with Dog Mom Magazine?
Well, what I've already seen coming to fruition, it makes me so excited, and it's really taking on a life of its own. I'm really excited to see where it goes, but the goals of Dog Mom Magazine are to support rescue or organizations that are aligned with rescue, and also to build the community, establish and build a community of dog moms so that we know we're not alone and we can be inspired by each other's journeys and stories, and also to just celebrate the bond and connection that we have with our dogs. And for every woman, every dog mom and their dog who is featured in the magazine, for them to have their own transformative experience for themselves, like
Mm.
for me, it ticks all the boxes. We're supporting good causes. We are creating a tome and a testimony that builds community. And then each person who is featured is having their own personal experience that is deeply, deeply meaningful to them. So that's my hope, that's my desire, and that's what I'm seeing happening. And yeah, and I'm amazed. I'm so amazed. We just recently had our very first dog mom retreat. And
Wow.
yeah, and what I heard just time and time again from the women that participated and attended was like how inspired they were by each other, and
Yeah.
I mean in their lives, because what we see is that our dogs inspire us, right? Our dogs inspire us to live our best lives. They inspire us to take on ventures and have adventures. And then that becomes an inspiration to the other dog moms who are seeing, oh, she was able to do it. She took the leap. I can do it too. And it's just so amazing to see all of that come to life. I'm humbled. I'm humbled by it. And I would like to continue to be humbled as I see it grow and shift and change and take on a life of its own.
I love that you said validation and community in your explanation because there's not a lot of platforms where dog moms are celebrated. I feel like we exist where we exist kind of quietly. Some of us are loud on social media. Some of us are quietly really just enjoying the bliss that is the life with our dogs. And I think this gives a voice to the slew of dog moms that are out there doing inspiring things, loving on their dogs, giving back to rescue, volunteering, fostering, all of these beautiful things. And there's a place for those stories to live. And as I was looking through and reading through the other stories, I was thinking, wow, we're very specific in our own way. Like, I feel like a lot of dog moms really love to do good. And a lot of dog moms were inspired to do good because of their dogs. And this sort of like cycle of feeding this good energy is so vibrant. And it comes through in the magazine. I was really, really happy to see it.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, your vision is coming to life too because I've seen what is this? Is the third edition since
Yes.
you've launched? Is that
Yeah.
correct? So
Yes.
I've seen the other two, and have since read their stories, been inspired by some women who either had completely different stories than I, or actually realized similar experiences with their dogs, regardless of their life is totally different than what my life looks like. You feel like you can relate and understand them. And then I've had the opportunity to meet a few of the women that you've also featured, and it's like, this is such a community that now like we're championing each other's initiatives and wanting to support each other and coming together to like share these important messages. And some of them are now fans of MythBarkers and supporting us and sharing our content. And it's just like, I think together we're amplifying each other's messages, and it's like we're coming together for such a shared cause. And so like that is just so beautiful and
Mhm.
inspiring that I'm like, the more we talk about this, I think the more women that we can get into our
Yeah.
our network and community of people and really
Right.
make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, energy leads to energy, right? Like what you put out in the world comes back to you, and we know
Yeah.
this. And there is a energetic momentum there. of this community and of these relationships that are being forged. And dog moms are tenacious, and you do not tell them no. And you know, they are ready to show up in so many ways. And just seeing that come to life is just been so beautiful. And it's been such an honor to be a part of that and to be the conduit, right, for the
Yeah.
magazine, conduit for that growth, and to have a platform, like you said, and a space. Yeah.
I'm
That's really
like,
beautiful.
I'm really feeling like we need to start a group chat at this point. Like, where is our group chat? Name the platform. I will start it today.
Seriously. Kristen, how do you go about picking the women that you're going to feature and the stories that you're going to tell? What is that process like, as you're also the editor in chief in addition to being the photographer for the magazine?
Yeah, the writer, the designer, the photographer, the
Yes, all of the things.
I
As
do.
as women are.
Yep.
Exactly. It was like, I guess I'll do it myself. Everything but literally printing it. So, so the women who are featured, they come to me in a myriad of ways. One is that in every magazine, there is a page that has a QR code that they can scan, and it takes them to the website, which is just dogmommagazine.com. They can go directly to the website, or if they're thumbing through the magazine, they can see that QR code, scan it, and it's a call to action for them to submit their story. And when they do that, then I have an interview with them. I walk them through the process, the opportunity, what's involved with it. We discover together what the story is. And, from there, if everything is a good fit, then they're offered the opportunity to have a photo session, be featured, and share their story, and be a part of it. So that's one way. Another way is through initiatives like the Dog Mom Retreat. I'm so excited even for the next issue that comes out, because Lisa is on the cover, and she was at Dog Mom Retreat, and she is one of the most recent people who came to me and said, I was just so inspired by every woman that was there. I see all of you just going for it, taking the leap, doing. Yeah, and so this actually being on the cover of the next magazine was this leap for her. That represented her saying yes to her intentions, and moving forward in the direction of everything that she wants and desires, and manifesting. So it can be communal in that sense. So I've also, a previous issue, Alexis Walling from Doggy Road Tripping, we started collaborating, and we developed a friendship together and have done many things. And then from there, we've had submissions and interest, and found individuals who wanted to participate and be a part of it. So some of it's like really boots on the ground, like grassroots, get out there. And other aspects might be that people have the magazine, or are hearing something like this, the podcast, and are inspired, because it's there for everyone. And everyone, I always say, throughout the history of my work as a photographer, is that I believe that one of the most important things that we can do as a human being is share our stories. And I also believe that you don't owe anyone your story, but when it feels right, that can be one of the most powerful things that you ever do.
Yeah. Storytelling is the backbone of civilization, I think. One of the
Yeah.
most important things. We love that on your website it reads, the dogs in our lives inspire us daily to live boldly. Laura and I can both resonate with this deeply. How has your relationship with your own dog influenced your approach to photography and storytelling, and ultimately Dog Mom Magazine?
Oh my gosh, my guys, my little monsters, my big monsters. They're not like when you call them puppies and they're like ancient. You still-
Yeah, they're
You're
Yep.
like,
huge.
exactly.
But they're
My
always your puppies. They're always your babies. So
I know, I know, I know. Yes, so I have two super mutts rescues. One is he's 11 years old, and his name is Hudson, and he is highly sensitive and very intuitive. And we adopted him when he was 10 weeks old. So he's been in our life like all 11 years. And now he's a grumpy old man in like the best way possible. So there's like a lot of like kids get off my lawn type talk and, all of that good stuff. And then Nito, or Hermanito, which is little brother in Spanish. He is 9 years old, and he's like a Plot Hound Mastiff mix. So he's a big boy. He's like 95 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So one of them is 65 pounds and one of them is 95 pounds. That was not the plan. But as often happens in rescue, you
Yep.
get things you don't plan for, but you always get the dog that you're meant to have. You always get the
Yep.
dog you're meant to have. So, particularly Nito really helped me to be a better photographer and helped me to be a better dog mom. As you guys had said before, I have a background in social work. I feel very passionate about behavior and social work and relationships and bonds. And both of my guys have special needs. They have separation anxiety, and they are reactive to other dogs. And there's not a lot of space, even like, so you've got dog mom community, and then a sub part of that that can be stigmatized is when we have dogs that have special needs or when they're reactive. It's a whole other level and a whole other world. And so it made me very passionate about understanding canine behavior and photographing ethically, because there's a lot of photographers who are like, yeah, sure, I'm going to photograph dogs. Dogs are great. They do not understand signs, signals, language. And, if they don't understand and they're not showing up in an ethical manner, then they're putting themselves, the pet, and family members, at risk, if everybody's not seeing signs. And so I worked with a behaviorist with my guy, Nito, and we just saw it transform his life. And we were able to give him the best life possible. And, he just lives this wonderful, beautiful life where we met him where he's at. So being able to meet him where he was at and show up for him in that way made me able to be able to show up for all of the creatures that I photograph and the humans who love and support them, and then be able to have important conversations about that through Dog Mom magazine.
We definitely saw firsthand what your process is like. Both Laura and I have experienced the process of your work. You like to call and interview the dog mom before a photo shoot so that you can learn the dynamic, what is special about the relationship. And also, a very important part is if you have a reactive dog, in what ways they're reactive, what triggers them, what they're totally fine with. When you came over, honestly, I'm always nervous when people come over to the house because it's just like a reactive dog mom thing. And he was so calm around you, and there were times when he was like, "You're a little close," but you caught that cue really quickly. It was like really amazing how you dealt with the whole situation and how you understood his boundaries through those behavioral cues. I think that is a huge part of making the photo shoot really harmonious and stress-free for everyone involved. So I believe, that extra training with the behaviors was such a huge, huge impact, both in your work and I'm sure in your life at home with your dogs.
You
Yeah.
said it now, and you said it when we were prepping for our shoot at my house. I'll meet the dog. I'll meet him where he is. You didn't ask him to change. You let him be who he is, comfortable in his environment, and respected that. And I had multiple reactive dogs in my house. So it was an experience for sure. And yeah, I'm so glad that we got to do it. And I think it takes a special kind of person to understand that, be supportive of their needs, and not try to push them to do something that's uncomfortable. Like you're like, okay, he clearly does not feel comfortable with me closer. I'm going to stand away and I'll shoot from far, or I'm going to do this. And I was so appreciative of that. And I'm sure other dog moms with a similar experience, also would feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is one of the most important things to me is to meet every creature, whether they're a human or canine or kitty cat or whatever, where they're at. And it should be a fun experience. We're here to celebrate everything that matters most to you in your life. And yes, the discovery process beforehand, I don't believe in picking up my camera until I understand the unique bond and connection. Because I tell people I can show up all day long and take a great photo of, a dog and a person, but it doesn't say anything about their life, their connection, what it means to them. So understanding that and bringing that level of intention to what we're doing is how we're able to create and immortalize and honor the legacy of every creature in every relationship. And to be able to meet every creature where they're at, it just fills me with so much joy. And I don't believe that anyone should be in this photo session experience should be made to do anything. It's about creating an environment where the best parts of ourselves and those that we love are able to show up organically. So if I
Yeah.
do my work right, then I can help us create that world and create that environment and show up and, just create something that is just irreplaceable and invaluable and priceless that you have forever and ever and ever, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And that's what brings me the most joy.
I love how much reverence and care you have for the relationship, the storyline, the realness between the dog and its parent. In what ways do you feel like dog moms have been maybe overlooked or misrepresented in the media today?
Oh yeah, in media. I think it can easily be turned into an easy joke. It's a lazy joke. All of the tropes that we were and cliches that we were talking about the crazy dog mom. And I think the kind of like hidden message layered under that is that you're ridiculous and your life is less meaningful because you're obsessed in this way. And I think we see that in social media, I think in particular. And so, we see those things come to life, but this is the opportunity for us to change the story and write a different narrative. But yeah, I see it stand out, I think, particularly in social media.
I'd say, like, so much in the comments section too. It can be totally unrelated, but someone will just go in and be like, oh, these people. Like, like these crazy people. And I'm
Mhm.
always thinking, it's such a crazy thing to state because me as one individual, I have no idea what another woman is going through, what her life story is like, what her biological state is like what her fertility situation is, what her
Mhm.
upbringing was, what her family history was. So for one
Mhm.
person to just blanket statement judge someone else based on them loving on something so hard to me is
Yeah.
more telling of the person that's writing the comment than about the content itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't need to yuck on anybody's yum, right? There's something we would say as social workers that I really loved, which was asking ourselves, when we're talking about autonomy and people's right to choose and what we choose every day, it would be like, well, is what they're doing hurting anyone? And or are they hurting themselves? No,
Mm.
then I don't think we need your opinion about it. Just let people do what they want to do. Um,
That is so clean. I love how clean that is. I'm just gonna put that in my
yeah,
phone for later. Good filters to
exactly.
have.
Yeah, just tuck that one away.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, you're right. That does happen there. There are those people who feel the need to comment. And I love what you're saying about we don't know the experience of every individual. And that can be true for all of the things that we love in life, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't know what someone's experience and what their personal journey is that led them to making the choices that they've made in their lives to have what they have in their lives. And who are we to say anything about whatever brings fulfillment and joy to someone and enriches their life as long as they're not hurting anyone else or hurting themselves. Um,
Absolutely agree.
That's a
yeah.
beautiful way to put it. And I feel like there's so much traditional aspects of society that just doesn't support women making decisions for themselves with whatever the best decision is for them, right? Like I feel like we as dog moms who don't have children maybe feel underappreciated and unseen. And so I love what you're building with Dog Mom Magazine because it adds not only validation, but it celebrates it. So it takes it to that next level.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, is there a common thread that you've recognized as you've spoken with various dog moms from all different walks of life as you've been going through this project? Not only the Dog Mom magazine, but for years before with your coffee table book as well.
You mean a theme of their experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I have. There have been a few themes. One theme is, as I said before, I have learned time and time and time again through the the humble joy and the sacredness of hearing other people's stories that you will always receive the dog in your life that is meant to be in your life. No matter what it was that you planned on or hoped for, that creature was meant for you. And a lot of times we can never know what that means until we are in it. And so that has been a theme of like time and time again, women telling me their stories of, they brought this creature into their lives, they brought this dog into their life, and they expected it to be this one thing, but then, life happened. They got cancer. They struggled with infertility. They were in a terrible accident. And, to not take it too much in of a Debbie Downer place, on the flip side of that, there's been themes of, my dog has inspired me to change my career or start a career from scratch. Like completely inspired me. My dog has inspired me to buy the house that I have. Like those are things like I want to like normalize, right? Like I have
Guilty.
worked. Yes, yes, I have worked with so many women who have purchased their home in large part for to have the life that they want for their dogs. They have like moved places. They have, taken on just so many opportunities and challenges because their dogs have been right there, cheering for them in their own way that, they can feel and experience every day. So those are a few of the themes that I see repeat over and over and over again. Of course, themes of unconditional love. There is no other creature on the face of the earth, including other humans, who witness more of our lives than our dogs. Not even our partners. If we have, spouses or romantic partners or like whatever, you know, it still is our dog that's following us from room to room every moment. And in those quiet moments when we are bereft or inconsolable, they are the ones that are always there,
Yeah.
always there. And themes of how they're there, that they show up and we don't have to explain anything. Sometimes even our best and most beautiful humans that are in our lives, they want to say the right thing. They want to do the right thing. And a dog will never question if it's doing the right thing or saying the right thing. It only wants to love you as you are.
Mm.
Uh, those themes show up time and time and time again. And one thing that you had just said was being seen, like dog moms not really feeling like they're being seen, which is such a theme. And actually, Lisa, who I was just referencing in the cover for the next magazine, she just had a photo session experience and shared, this experience, the experience of like stepping outside of herself and seeing her bond and her connection captured was really the first time that she felt seen. And she just kept saying, I get to love these dogs. Like I get to be their dog mom. Like I get to save them and bring them into my life and give them their best life. Like that's what I get to do. And she felt really seen through that. And so I think like that is a huge part of the work of the magazine, is that we feel seen, when we see ourselves and we see others and we see possibility through the magazine.
Oh man, everything that you just listed as the common thread, I was like nodding so hard because it applies to the two of us
Yeah.
viscerally and in a really, really relatable way.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I think what was really beautiful to see through your photos is like I never get to see the way Luke looks at me. And I was able to see that, and I was like, "Oh, look at the love in his eyes. He's so sweet." Like, I can't believe
Yeah.
something that's alive in this world looks at me like that. And yeah, it just gave me the feels.
Oh, I love that. That is one of my favorite things. That is one of my favorite things. And I will have occasionally, at this point, people know what I do and how I do it. So I don't get too much pushback, but occasionally I will have someone come to me and they're like, I just want photos of my dog. I don't want photos of me and my dog. That does occasionally happen. And what I ask, I know, Laura, you're like,
Who? What? No.
No, no,
but
right?
yeah, yeah, but this is what I tell people is I ask them to trust me, and I do a lot of things to instill trust, before I pick
Hmm.
up my camera, but I ask them to trust me, and I tell them that we're going to photograph everything and that they love this creature. They love their dog, but much of what they love most about their dog is in direct correlation to their bond and their relationship. So I can't actually capture the things that they love most without that connection happening in front of the camera. And then the thing I tell them too, if they're having a photo session with me, is I'm like, and so just trust me on that. Just go with me. And you actually don't have to buy anything you don't like. So you're going to see it all. So, and at the end of it, they're like, oh, okay, I see it. And they have those moments like you had where, you see in his eyes all of that love and adoration. And that's what we're doing. That is what we are locking in time,
Yeah.
encapsulated.
Yeah, you got me and Rollins just looking like eye to eye, like not. Oh, he was like, he had forgotten at that point that there was a stranger in his backyard. He had his toy, he was looking at me, and it's like so intense. And it's like, that's not a photo that I can capture on my iPhone with the thousands of photos I have of my dogs. None
Yep.
of them show
Yep.
that moment and that connection, and so that was really so special. So I'm so grateful that we got to make it happen, that you gave Yena and I the opportunity to be featured in the magazine, but also now to talk about that experience, and also just to validate the the worthiness of the Dog Mom experience, which I think you do so beautifully with Dog Mom magazine and what you're building, and we're just really proud to be a part of that.
We have
Yeah.
so many frames to order because the prints were so gorgeous too. I
Yeah.
received it on my birthday and I was like, I already made my birthday. Like literally contributed to birthday morning happy tears. So thank
Oh, I'm
you.
so happy to hear that.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
I have to say too, I still get stunned seeing the actual art. And I'm not talking about like this isn't like a brag on me. I still just am amazed when we take whatever we've created together, right? And then we turn it into this art, and our studio has some of the most beautiful styles and representations of art rendering. We have a very special company that we use in Italy, and their work is just bar none. And every time I pick up one of those prints, I'm just like, wow,
Yeah.
like we co-created that moment, and then to have it, all of that love, all that connection, all that bond deserves to be immortalized and honored. So I'm so glad that you loved it. I know exactly what you mean. I didn't get to actually see the end of it because it came straight from Italy to your door. But I can imagine.
Yes, there were tears. Let's just say
Yeah,
that.
good.
To pivot to a little bit more about the dogs and the effect they have on us. You've previously spoken about how dogs can help people with anxiety, depression, divorce, major life changes, reproductive challenges, death, and other grief as well. Can you expand on this? How do you think dogs impact our motivation, joy, and even mental health?
Well, we have scientific data that shows like the dopamine that is released when we pet a dog, right? And so we have science to back it up, that having our dogs in our lives changes chemicals in our brains that make us happier, right? And from the stories that I hear time and time again, especially when dog moms are going through something, a difficult experience, one of those through lines is they got me out. They got me
Mm.
outside, they got me going. I couldn't not care for them. No matter what was happening, I had to get up and walk out the door. And we also know the grounding scientifically, we know the grounding of being outside, of walking, of being, in the sun, of taking in fresh air. There's plenty of studies that show that, and our dogs create a scenario in which, we have to do that. And so there's just all of these ways that just by default of their existence in our lives, our quality of life and our mental health are improved. So there's just there's so much data that we can look at that's right there. And then aside from the data, there's just the shared narrative and shared experience. And for people who got outside and walked with their dogs and were not going through some sort of great tumultuous upheaval in their lives, a lot of times the story and through line is that they built community because they were
Mhm.
outside walking. And of course, everybody's dog, everybody's dog's name. You don't know the humans' names, but you know, and out and walking and making friends and building community. Like without a dog, we're not typically just walking down the street and then striking up a conversation with a stranger.
This
But
is
we
so
do
true.
with
It
dogs.
just brings so much more richness, connection, and human community outside of just the dog community. I
Mhm.
I am thinking about all the people in my life, and most of them I met through my dog. Most
Mhm.
of them. Which is
Yeah.
a crazy thing to say. Like, what would my life would have been if I didn't have any dogs? How
Yeah.
different would it look? And I don't even want to think about it, quite
Well, and you were
frankly.
bold enough to change your life 10 plus years ago with Bodhi of like, I'm just going to lean into building a life around my dog and our connection and being there for him, which I think is so rare and is becoming more and more common now. I'm like, okay, I made the leap more recently than you did, but it's just like, okay, maybe I think we're normalizing it or hoping to normalize it a little more, right? Building our
Yeah.
lives around our dogs and the lives that we want, not the lives
Right.
that we're supposed to have or think we're supposed to have.
Yeah, not
Exactly.
the lives that society says we're supposed to have. And
Yes.
I think one other important thing that I would want to mention um, when we talk about the effects of having a dog in our lives is I have heard so many stories, and I want to say it because I think that most women who have shared this with me feel like they might be the only one. It's not something that they lead with. But I've heard over and over and over again women who have been in domestic violence situations that it was their dog that was able to help them get out, whether
Wow.
their dog was being injured or they feared for their dog to be injured, or simply their dog looked at them, with the eyes that they could read and said, "You deserve better." And it gave them the courage to go and to leave. But that is a story I have heard over and over and over again. It's an important one, and I don't think it gets shared as much. And we can understand
Wow.
it's a very vulnerable, truth to put out there. So I kind of want to be the bannerman for, all of the women who have experienced domestic violence, and their dogs have been the ones that have helped them get out of that dangerous situation.
Well, and conversely, there's data
Wow.
that shows that some women get stuck staying in dangerous situations because they're
Mhm.
worried about not being able to take their dogs with them. And I think that is a massive issue that we need to address as a society to be more
Yes,
supportive of women and people and their pets, which
yes,
are members of the family. Because I would
Mhm.
mhm,
hate to think of someone being kept in danger for a
yes.
longer period of time because they can't leave their dog or they have to go to a homeless shelter but they can't bring their dog. Like
You're
you see
absolutely
this
right.
more and more, and it's definitely
Mhm,
something that we need
mhm.
to address.
Yeah. Here we are, right? Here's the rally cry, right? Because
Yeah.
this is what we do. We have these conversations as dog moms, and I know at this very moment there is some dog mom that's going to be listening to this podcast and is going to be just inspired to start the solution for
Mm,
care for creatures that are a part of a domestic violence situation. There are some places, some organizations that
Mhm.
provide solutions for that. But you are
Yes.
absolutely right, Laura. They do. A lot of individuals stay in violent situations because they don't want to lose the creatures in their lives. There are organizations that do provide solutions, but there's not enough of them. So,
Yes.
rally cry out there for dog moms. Check out your local domestic violence situation center organization. See what they have, and if they don't have a solution, be inspired to start the work to create that solution. But yes, it's so important that you talk about that as well.
I'm
And
so glad you brought that up because it's very, very important to talk about these things as much as we like to talk about the lighter things, the happier things. These are
Yeah.
realities that a lot of dog moms are facing.
I I think this is a perfect transition, Kristen. It's clear that giving back and making an impact has always been a part of your DNA and what kind of
Mhm.
drives you with your coffee book series and now Dog Mom magazine. How do you go about picking which nonprofits in the rescue space you want to support with each of your issues?
Yeah. There's a couple things that go hand in hand. One is I'm always on the lookout. So at this point, I've been doing this for like 10 years, so I have a lot of connections, and I pay attention when someone tells me, "Oh, I've been working with this rescue," and I'm like, "Tell me more." And I'll
Mm,
do some research. I want to be responsible and ethical with the donating that I'm doing. I want to know that whatever organization it is, that it's run well, and that the people who are participating in the various projects and the magazine and stuff, a portion of that is going to either create the project that it will then be donated to or directly to the nonprofit. So I want to make sure that I'm being a good steward of the people who are trusting in me as well. So, doing my research and talking to people that I trust that are affiliated with different organizations, making the ask to be connected directly to those organizations. I always love a warm intro because me just reaching out cold and being like, this is me, the crazy photographer who's who's doing projects. But having someone who trusts me, who says, "Hey, you should listen to her because because her projects have donated over $50,000 to rescues. So you might want to have a conversation with her." And then, talking with them about the project, seeing if it's a good fit. Ultimately, I share with them how we do what we do, and then they decide if they want to be a part of that. And so yeah, it's through the community itself and that symbiotic connection. And then sometimes I'm just doing my own research. I'll just hear something and I'm like, ooh, what are they about? What's going on there?
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Well, Kristen, that was incredible. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us where we can find out more about Dog Mom Magazine and also how our listeners can book a session with you?
Yeah, you can do all of that actually at dogmommagazine.com. So at dogmommagazine.com, you will see several buttons that invite you to subscribe. It is a yearly subscription. It is a beautiful luxury magazine. You guys can attest like the quality of the print and everything. As a photographer, I couldn't just have it be your average magazine that you thumb through. Had to be a work of art itself. And so you can subscribe to it there and feel great about the profits from the subscriptions going to rescue. You'll also see at dogmommagazine.com, there is the submission form, a very brief submission form. And like I said before, that's how I'll reach out and schedule an interview. And since every person who is featured in the magazine has a photo session with me, that is also a great way to have a photo session with me. And then you can find us on Dog Mom Magazine on Instagram, which is a lot of fun. We tend to have very different content there. So a lot of reels, a lot of like behind the scenes. You're seeing who the dog moms are that are being featured and what's going on in these cute pups that are coming up in the magazine, and then also previous stories from previous issues as well.
Amazing. And I want to ask you one more question. So we've talked a lot about Dog Mom Magazine, and while it may seem obvious, who is the ideal recipient of this magazine? Like, who's your
Uh,
ideal audience?
I love that you asked that question because I think that it's anyone who has a dog in their life and or just feels passionately about rescue. Like just because maybe you're in a time, maybe you had a dog in your life and you don't currently for whatever reason, but you feel passionately about it, you feel passionately about rescue, it's still a good fit. Like still subscribe, be inspired by the stories. I think anybody that's aligned with the cause, right? So let's say you're not a dog mom. Let's say you're a dog dad, but you're like, I want to show up for women and women's empowerment, and I want this to, be on my coffee table or, wherever. That's a way to stand up and show up for giving voice and giving platform. I would love to have the magazine in like every veterinary office,
Mm.
something joyful and inspiring while you're waiting. And sometimes those are scary moments, and maybe like hearing an inspirational story can help kind of get you through those scary moments while you're waiting to go into the doctor's office with your
Yeah,
pup.
That's a great
uh
idea.
I
yeah,
agree.
so yeah, I would love that. Pet boutiques as well. I would love to see it in a lot of pet boutiques and just be getting the word out there and sharing and building that community.
And it is the holiday season, right? So it's a perfect gift for a fellow dog mom, dog lover, or yourself. Treat yourself,
Yes,
bring joy into your
absolutely.
life.
And it is the perfect holiday gift. I'm
Right.
Yep.
yes, I'm very, very excited about that. It really is, really, really, really is the perfect holiday gift. It's a year subscription, so it's like the gift that keeps giving. So you purchase it for a loved one that is just absolutely bananas in love with their dog, even if you don't relate to that, even if you're a cat person, but your cats are your absolute life, but like you get it, you understand it, and you know that this loved one, just their dog is their world. Like what better, gift to give them than to a gift that supports rescue and also sees them, right? Like when you purchase that as a gift, you're saying, I see you, I see your love for your dog, and I'm validating it, I'm affirming it. So definitely a great holiday gift as well.
Kristen, we've had such a wonderful time speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to be featured in this issue of Dog Mom Magazine. It means so much to Yena and I, and you know, we really believe in what you're building. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who's been tuning in today. Stay tuned for the next episode of MythBarkers.